Today we are going on 2 adventures. Okay, so actually I already went on these 2 adventures, and today I'm just going to try my best to retell the stories of how I met Cardists in person for the first time. Now, I went on these adventures back in the summer, so I guess we gotta rewind back to June. So the day is June 17th, which is the day of the Indiana Card Jam. Now, I don't actually live in Indiana, so I guess I gotta go hop in the car for several hours. So I had actually arrived at the jam like an hour early, but after the hour had passed, people started coming in. So it was a pretty small jam, which was probably good for me to start getting to know people and not be so overwhelmed with too many people, I guess. So there was Reggie, Tyler, and Lucas, and me. So here's just kind of a quick summary of what happens at a card jam, or at least what happened whenever I was there. Obviously, you shuffle cards, but with other people. You can show people what you've been working on, whether it's a move you created or one that you are just learning. And then of course you can give others tips on a move they're struggling with, or teach them a new move that they've been wanting to learn. And obviously you just talk about cards or magic or just whatever's on your mind that might seem interesting and will be relevant to whatever other people are interested in. There's also a good amount of borrowing decks just to see how they feel, because obviously one cardist collection is not going to be the same as another cardist collection for the most part. A jam is a great time to get to feel another deck so that you can buy it one yourself, or you can determine, oh, I actually don't like this, or just see how it feels for fun, just to try out a new deck. And then sometimes you can buy or trade decks. As a bonus for attending the meetup, I got 4 decks out of it. So first, thank you to Nathan Stitcher from Missing for basically sponsoring the jam. And I got the Infrared Philadelphia and 2 of the Data Bins. So these are my first Missing decks, which were missing from my collection for a while, but not anymore. And also thank you Car Street Tyler for the first deck. Very nice. And of course, there's a lot of filming and taking pictures, whether it's just for content creation or documenting your experience. So I was there for about 4 hours. I had to leave early to go to work. But yeah, it was my first jam, and I had never met any cardists before in person. I don't know any cardists in my area. I have some friends who are somewhat interested in it, but they don't do it full time like I do. I've of course had some conversations online, through email, direct messages, and Discord, and even some video calls, but it's again not the same as meeting people in person. It's a lot harder, and you obviously can't borrow each other's decks when you're online. And of course there's been CardistryCon and other past meetups in the Indiana area, but I haven't had the time or the money, or it just hasn't been in the most ideal location for me to be able to go. But since I did have the time that day, I took the chance to go, and I'm very glad I did, even though I probably was a little awkward and just kind of stood there most of the time. But overall, I very much enjoyed the experience. So yeah, that was the Indiana Jam. After the Indiana Jam, I didn't think I would see another cardist in person for at least another year. Luckily for me, something literally popped up. I could not attend CardistryCon. However, starting in mid-July, a group from my school, including me, traveled to England where we studied English literature. We were there for 3 weeks.
This was my first time traveling out of the US, and I thought it was interesting enough that it would be in London the same days as CardistCon was happening. So I was prepared to be on the lookout for Cardists walking around the streets of London.
Then on July 24th, anyone posted on their Instagram that they were hosting a pop-up on the 27th. So obviously I had to check my program's itinerary to make sure we would be in London and have free time, and it said that we did, although I was a little cautious to not get too excited because our trip had some setbacks and I didn't want to get too excited and then it turned out that I wouldn't be able to go. But I did start gathering friends to come with me to the pop-up because one, we needed at least a group of 4 for safety reasons, and 2, I also just wanted to see if some friends wanted to go for fun. Remember these two from 2 of my friends' videos? Yeah, they said they were open to coming. They didn't come. Yes, I did just publicly call y'all out. They decided to go see Big Ben and the Palace and some other places instead. So, missed opportunity. But anyways, the 27th came. We had just finished an assignment at the Welcome Center, and so I was still able to go. So we left at about 12, which means that the pop-up had already started, but we took the London Underground there. And walked until we reached the store about 30 to 40 minutes after we had left. And as we were walking down the alley nearing the store, I think the first Cardist that I saw and recognized, of course, was Brendan Connor. And then eventually I started recognizing a few other ones. Someone also recognized me. It was great to meet you. And so seeing all these big name Cardists made me realize, wow, I'm actually here. I actually get to experience another cardistry event and meet new Cardists. However, seeing all the big name Cardists and just the amount of people there really made my social anxiety kick in a little bit. So I'd actually gotten 4 people to come with me, and 4 out of 5 of us are pretty reserved introverts. The big social setting is not really our place to be. Luckily, one of my friends is a little bit more outgoing, so after anxiously walking into the store and awkwardly staring around, my outgoing friend went up to someone and they were basically like, hey, what is this? What the heck is going on here? Now again, keep in mind, none of these people I'm with are actual Cardists. They've also never been to a cardistry event either, obviously. So thank you, Will, for kind of explaining what was going on.
He basically explained what cardistry is, and he showed us some of his moves. At first I thought he was just going to do worm, and then he actually went into a larger display, which was really cool. And he obviously explained that people were just jamming and there for CardistryCon, and he explained how buying cards worked.
So obviously the first thing I did was get some decks.
Now I was nervous about getting cards because that meant going up to the counter where Tobias Levin was standing, and Tobias is one of my favorite cardists that I've never talked to though.
But I got, of course, UK Souvenir and the ready-made Houndstooth. And then a little bit later, my friend got some as well, and then they gave me one. So in total, I ended up with 2 UK Souvenir decks and 2 ready-made Houndstooth. So after getting the cards, me and my friends were just on this like couch thing in the store, and obviously I opened them up and just kind of like looked at them. After a few minutes, I eventually gained enough courage to get up and talk to some people, while also getting a Sharpie so that I can have the deck signed by some cardists. But basically I got up and was just like, hey, can you sign my deck of cards? And then of course I handed them the deck and the Sharpie. Everyone I asked obviously said yes, because like, why not? Now, as you can probably tell, I'm not great at starting or holding conversations, but I tried. Now, there was a good amount of awkwardness, but it was about 50-50 on those who signed and walked away, or I walked away, and then the other 50, I tried to start a conversation with them, or they started one with me. So I don't remember the full list of everyone who signed the deck or everyone I talked to, but I'm gonna try my best to remember and list them all here. Okay, so this other stuff might be out of order, but that's okay.
So I went up to Tobias first and had him sign my deck. By this time, everyone was just talking among themselves, and I absolutely hated going up to a group because I felt like I was interrupting them. So I would just silently walk up to a group until someone said hey to me.
So the first people I remember talking to very well was with Sean O, and I think it was Dave Buck.
They were great. They were super nice. I'm like, hey, this is my first time. I'm pretty awkward. And they were very supportive. They're like, oh, really? We couldn't tell. Kind of joking. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's how everyone starts. This is basically like CardistryCon. I think it's also kind of funny that obviously most people were there for CardistryCon, and they asked me if I was going to CardistryCon, and I was just like, I can't. I'm on a school study abroad trip, but I'm glad to be here. I've been planning on it for the past 3 days. I also talked to Daniel Huckins, which was really cool. I also approached Yevon, who thought it was kind of crazy but also cool that I recognized him from Instagram, and he was in a group, so I stayed and talked to that group for a little bit longer. But for most of the time I was gathering signatures. It was just a lot of walking in and out of the store looking for people. And while all this signing was happening, 3 of my friends went to go to other stores to just look around or just walk back and forth down the alleyway just to do something else and get away from the crowd. And then my other friend stayed with me, staring at a distance. Eventually, I got Brendan Connor's signature, and I was about to leave, but he asked me if I was gonna stay and watch the A1 Ben Edgar video. Then I just asked, how long is it? And he's just like, oh, it's about 5 minutes. So I did end up staying for that. And then after the video, most people left for lunch. Me and my friends left, and we walked a little bit farther down the alleyway to get food, although I literally did not eat anything because I just didn't see anything I wanted to eat, nor did I just want to deal with that at the moment. I was just kind of reflecting on the past 2 hours at the pop-up. After lunch, we started walking our way back. Then I noticed some other cars had show up that had not been there earlier. So basically the same thing. I got signatures while 3 of my friends just walked around. Someone else recognized me. Shout out to the Netherlands. I'm 95% sure that's where you said you were from. I am so sorry if it's not, but you know who you are, so shout out to you. Thank you. So some other cars I talked to were Sibface, Lars Mayrand, Nathan Wu, and Elliot Slevin. Conversations that I started were more of, hey, I like your stuff, your cardistry, and then I'd say a specific move. So for Lars, I'd say windmill, and for Nathan, I said exploratorium. And Nathan actually let me use his beat up birds deck to show my progress with exploratorium, which I failed about 3 times, but I eventually sort of got it on the 3rd try. It's obviously very sloppy. I'm working on it, but that was cool of him to let me use his cards and show him. And with Elliot, my friend was actually standing right next to me instead of standing at a distance. And at one point, Elliot asked us how long each of us have been doing cardistry. So I gave my answer of about 4 to 5 years, but my friend gave an answer of about 1 week because they had been learning the card spring. But I thought it was funny because I was just expecting them to say that they weren't a cardist. And I also mentioned to Elliot that squoze was one of the first flourishes I learned, and he went on to just explain that he came up with squoze as a variation to squeeze. And then Elliot actually showed me his custom deck of where he gets pictures off the internet and puts them on cards, and it looks pretty cool. And someone else also filmed me for their CardistryCon video, but I think it's kind of funny that I tried to do Nova by Nick Stumphauser 3 times, failed every single one of them. My excuse was that I'm rusty and it's windy, and then eventually I just did a basic Rolling Stones combo, and then I almost did backdrop, but again it was windy, so I just did a terrible closer. And then they ended up using my Nova fail in the video. Darn, you used my fail, but it's their video, and it's a good video. And the video is linked down below. But yeah, that was cool to be a part of that. And it's also the only video footage of me even being there. And so about another hour had passed, and then I decided, okay, I think we should go so I can stop wasting my friend's free time. So yeah, even though I was pretty awkward most of the time, I was glad to be there, especially since I couldn't go to CardistryCon. Being in England was already the opportunity of a lifetime for me, but the coincidental anyone pop-up being there was incredible too, and I got to be at a cardistry event and talk to Cardists not too long after my first time of meeting Cardists. Okay, so now I want to share with you guys some of the other decks
I got, well, in England, that aren't the ones from the Anyone Popup. So first off, my friend got me these Shakespeare playing cards, and actually a few hours after we went to the Anyone Popup, we actually went to the Globe to watch the Comedy of Errors by Shakespeare, so that's very fitting. So these just have a large box, and then it has a booklet for a guide to all the characters, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't care about Shakespeare. Overall, the design of the cards is fine. It's not the usual white color, and it's got a nice back design with good detail. And then the faces of every card is a different Shakespeare character. Now, in terms of handling, they're not great. They're a little thick, but they're still, of course, usable. Although I don't think their price of £13 is worth it, but that's just my opinion. And then later, I also got Lake District and British Heritage cards for about £8 each. They're both not great either. They're actually worse than the other ones. But again, they're still usable. The design is alright. The faces are good, although I wish the pictures on them were a little bit larger and took up more of the card, but it still works. So yeah, those were the other England cards. Now for some other closing thoughts, I didn't film much, and the reason why I didn't film much at both the Indiana Jam or the Anyone Pop-Up is that I was living in the moment. That's actually about 30% of the reason. The other 70% is just that I didn't feel like filming. And also in England, I didn't really trust the weather. Basically, anytime I wanted to film, it'd rain about 5 minutes later. And also in England, I was just like going through some things. Like I got sick after a Morse hike. And then actually a week before the Anyone Pop-Up, I got stung by, I think, bees or wasps 7 times on my legs and my ankle. That was not fun. At one place, I got skin irritation. Yeah, I wasn't in the best conditions to be filming or even walking around, but obviously I still walked around. I also just want to note that my enthusiasm and excitement doesn't always show through, so I could be having a great time and still just kind of like stand there awkwardly like. But yeah, anyway, both experiences were fantastic, and I would like to go to another kind of cardistry event, hopefully for longer, and actually sit down and take some time to shuffle and talk a little bit more and make some deeper connections. So yeah, this video was just me kind of documenting and retelling my experiences, and I also want to encourage you guys to try and attend a cardistry event if you can, or talk to people online. There's several places on social media. In my experience, the cardistry community has been very helpful, and everyone wants to just help each other improve and make connections and just share this hobby or lifestyle or art that we all have a passion for.